Hi there, I'm Kevin Durand, Proximus Caesar, and you are watching Talking Apes.
Now listen to me, Caesar. There can be only one talking chimpanzee on Earth. The child of the two talking apes.
20 years back.
From the year, Senor Mando, when the two talking apes arrived on Earth.
And we believe that the male and female talking apes have come to us out of the future.
A month before the talking apes arrived on Earth.
From now on, you have but one assignment: to find that talking ape.
He's a performing ape for my circus.
A talking ape?
That idiot!
This chimpanzee...
Get out of retraction immediately. Announce that the talking ape has been apprehended and put to death.
Incredible! The talking apes!
Hey, ape fans, and happy April! Talking Apes is back for another jam-packed April. I am Richard Woloski, and I want to welcome you back to Talking Apes. This is your Planet of the Apes podcast, where we celebrate the movies, the TV series, the Marvel comics. We celebrate the fan community. We celebrate everything Planet of the Apes. And we are back with episode number 72. What? 72? Yep. Now, in our 2025 hiatus, we were preparing for these episodes in April, so there's a lot of fun stuff coming your way. Now, in this episode, we'll be speaking with Jim Beard. He was a collaborator on the upcoming Planet of the Apes role-playing game. We had an amazing discussion with him. I am so excited about this. We talked with him about the book he collaborated on, Planet of the Apes Tales from the Forbidden Zone. We had an amazing discussion on fandom, on everything. We can't wait for you to hear it. Now, before I bring on Kevin Toft, got to remind everyone to please subscribe to our Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. By doing that, you'll get alerts, you'll get notifications, so when new Talking Apes comes up, you'll be able to watch the shows. And when we do the comics, you'll be able to see the panels as we're going through them. So please subscribe. And we're trying to get to the big number of 10,000 subscribers by Comic-Con. So we need about 700 more. Are you in? All right, good. Now, I want to bring him on now. Here he is, Mr. Kevin Toft. Kevin, where are you? Here you are.
Together Ape Strong.
Hey, Kevin.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going great, Kevin. I'm just so excited about this episode with Jim Beard. He is such a great ambassador for ape fandom.
I could see hanging out with him. He's cool.
Yeah. Now, before we get into our discussion, gotta thank Mark Rogosiewicz once again for getting us that opening promo from Kevin Durand, a.k.a. Proximus Caesar. Mark, thank you very much. See, even though he's not here, Mark is still here. Now,
right.
Kevin, I was telling everyone to please subscribe to the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel because of all the fun things to see, and convention season is coming up. So there'll be so many reveals that we'll be revealing on the YouTube channel.
Watch us go bananas. That's why you subscribe. That's the only way you're going to see it. You could hear us go bananas, but why not hear us and see us go bananas?
Kevin, I will never tire of your banana jokes. Because they
Zera's bane.
They are what? Kevin, say it. They are...
Well, they're appealing.
Oh, hey, you know what? Speaking of appealing and speaking of conventions, at this latest toy fair, did you see this?
Yes, I did.
For those who are just listening and not watching, we don't want to exclude you.
Okay.
What we're looking at right here is a NECA reveal of the Planet of the Apes Halloween trick-or-treater figure.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, those Ben Cooper costumes are the ones, I would say since I was mostly a kid in the 70s, that you would have seen in the, Five and Dime or the supermarket.
It's a little gorilla soldier. It's like 3 3/4 inch. They've been releasing different figures. I am so excited about this. In the past, they've had, look at this. We're looking at a trick-or-treater doll figure of Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And there's Batman and Joker and Batgirl. Kevin, this speaks to me because I had all these costumes.
I had this. You had the Wonder Woman?
My sister did. I'm not saying
Oh,
I'm not saying I didn't wear this on special nights, okay?
I did have the Superman. Now that I'm looking at that, I can see a picture of me standing with one of my neighbors in our living room getting ready to go out trick-or-treating. It was the Superman that I had, for sure.
And I don't know how they came up with this idea. People over at NECA, they are tapping into people of our generation
Yeah,
with
for
these
sure.
costumes and the fact that we went out trick or treating and how big Halloween is
Yes,
to someone like
was.
me. It's like they're making these just for me. I don't want to be too selfish on this, but they're saying, hey, you know what? We'll make them just
Right.
for Rich. Now, let's say back in 1974, this would have been me. Now, I found this picture on the internet. This is not me. We're
I
showing
had that one too.
we're showing a picture of a little trick-or-treater in a nylon Batman jumpsuit with a face mask holding a Halloween pumpkin, about to go out
Oh, yeah.
trick-or-treating.
Oh,
this
yeah.
this could have been me in 1974.
It was me.
So you look at this, and you look at that figure.
Yep.
How do you not buy these? And I'm not sure of the price, but I want to say they're about like $30-ish. But take my money. Take all my money.
Seems legit. Yeah.
Very much so. So look at this. This wave here has got Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. It's got Dracula. We've got Lady Dracula, Draculaura. I love these. And,
All the classics.
and
Oh, wow.
this wave has got
Gizmo,
Alien, Gizmo, Gremlin, and Beetlejuice.
which obviously didn't exist back then, but they did it in the same style.
I know, but you know what? I'll give him a little leeway for that.
Sure. You got to get all the properties in there.
Yeah, so that to me is like the biggest news of the season. That little Planet of the Apes figure. I cannot
Yeah,
wait to
that's
get that.
pretty fantastic. I love it.
All right, Kevin, with that, let's now get into our discussion with Jim Beard and hear all about the new Planet of the Apes role-playing game. Oh, I can't wait. The classic Planet of the Apes just turned 57 years old, and there is no shortage of merchandise. There are new comics, new figures, and a new role-playing game. The upcoming Planet of the Apes RPG from Magnetic Press has been a long time coming. Author Jim Beard, who's also a collaborator on the RPG, is here with us now to give us the latest details. Hello, Jim!
Hey, thanks. I'm finally here.
You're fine. Woohoo! Welcome to Talking Apes, the multi-universe.
The other Forbidden Zone.
Now, before we get into the role-playing game, tell us about your Planet of the Apes fandom. What was your entry point?
I'm pretty sure that what I saw first was that first TV broadcast of the 68 film. So I would have been like 3 years old when it came out. Obviously, I didn't go to the theater. Wouldn't that have been freakish, to be 3 years old and to be watching something like Planet of the Apes? But yeah, I'm pretty sure that I watched that first one, and I don't think that I actually got to finish it. So what it was broadcast in?
Early 70s. I recall
Yeah,
in 74, 75, I was watching it on TV every Sunday.
yeah. So I remember it coming on and getting to watch it for at least a little while and then being told to go to bed. Like it's a school night or whatever it was. But by being absolute mesmerized by it, that first scene on the ship with Charlton Heston and those freaky things, floating past the windows and all of that and that crazy, crazy music and just making such an impact on me. I was already a science fiction fan even at that young age. And then it's so funny. I remember very distinctly. My whole family, we always looked at the newspaper at the movie ads, even if we didn't necessarily go to the movies. As a kid, I loved looking at the movie ads, and it seemed to me like every time I opened up the newspaper, there was another Planet of the Apes movie coming out. I think I even said something at one point. We might have gotten all the way up to battle, and it's like, wow, how many of these are they going to do? And it just seemed like kept going on and on and on. So again, I saw them all on TV originally, and then I'm very glad to be able to say that I watched the live action TV series as it happened. It's all true, all of it. It all really happened, and the cartoon also. I would have been right there to watch the cartoon. I never had the Mego figures. I had like every other freaking Mego figure, and I wanted the Planet of the Apes ones, and I used to draw pictures of them out of the Penny's catalog, the J.C. Penney's catalog. But for whatever reason, my dad must have decided that I had enough Mego figures and wouldn't get me the Planet of the
What a
Apes.
weird place to draw the line. I draw the
I
line
know,
at
right?
talking apes.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. And to this day, I'm still saying to him, you know, damn you all to hell. Why couldn't I have had those Mego Planet of the Apes figures?
Did you have any of the other games or toys or?
Weirdly enough, no. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that. I mean, at least I was there in the '70s while this stuff was going on, but not that I really remember. I don't think I actually got any real, honest to goodness Planet of the Apes stuff
Well,
until
where did you grow up? Were you in California or
no, Ohio,
Ohio?
Northwest
Okay.
Ohio. Yeah,
Well,
Toledo.
okay. Well, I'm just saying I agree with. I know what it was like back then. I was there too, and it there was no internet. At best, you'd get a shopping catalog around Christmas, so you never know which store had what thing. I just got lucky and got my Ursus, the general, the Migo, that I was in the store. I was with the right grandmother at the right time in the right place, and that's how I got it. But there was no way of like going, oh, this is the best place to go get this or that. It was, you just got
Yeah,
lucky back then.
yeah. I mean, I was really lucky with other toys, and I mean,
Sure.
I had a million books. I had I take that back. Pardon me. I had the Marvel magazines.
Hmm.
I had maybe half a dozen or so of those, and really loved those. Although they were super weird, compared to like a DC comic, well, a Superman comic or a Batman comic, and then you get this weird black and white Marvel
Right.
mag, and how just graphic it was, the way it felt. It was like getting an issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland. It was the same visceral sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the why don't these characters look like the actors? In the adaptation parts of those, and
Yeah,
then
we're going over the adaptations right now of the Marvel adaptations of the Planet of the Apes films, and it's like, wait a minute, Roddy McDowell doesn't look like this, and neither does Zeus or Ursus or any of the characters. But I'm beginning to connect some dots here. You didn't have the Planet of the Apes games, so that's why when the RPG came about, he's like, okay, now
There you go.
the circle is now
Yeah.
complete. Get me on board with this.
now listen, Richard, you promised there'd be no Star Wars references during this recording. Because
Okay, show's over.
you're gonna you're gonna trigger me, and then I'm gonna start talking about Star Wars.
Oh, there's
Apes.
plenty of opportunity to talk about Star Wars. Trust me. All
Your
right,
sign says talking apes.
Bananas.
okay. We'll go back to talking apes.
Yeah, this is not talking Jawas.
Right.
We can do that too. But you know what? We really want to get into this role playing game. Let's really get into this because this was funded on Kickstarter, and I read that within 15 minutes,
Yeah.
you guys went way past your goal. Now, what was that initial goal?
Oh, you know what? I didn't do the Kickstarter, so I'm not really sure. To me it didn't seem like tons and tons. Maybe it was like I'm probably making this up, like 10 grand or something like that. But honestly, that was one of the most entertaining times I've ever had watching a Kickstarter because it's like, when is this thing going to stop? But I remember saying this was a testament to the fandom, you know, like this was justification for everything that it did that well. And the project itself was a long time in coming, you know, a long gestation period, you know, some kind of starts and stops and things like that. So that was all just so wonderful to see how quick that campaign went along. And I think it maybe like it hit one of those things where at one point it was the, you know, most a role playing game had ever gotten, or the quickest, or one of those things. You know, it broke some records there.
Well, as of February 25th, 2025, there were 1,971 backers who pledged $324,681 to help bring this project to life. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like, again, very, you know, very justified, and really kind of so proud of how that went, and everybody involved. And I have to say, I've been involved in a lot of communities with the stuff that I've done, the, you know, the licensed fiction that I've written and things like that. The Planet of the Apes community has been one of the very best. And I know you hear this a lot, but about different fandoms, but these people are passionate about the franchise and about this game. And that's what's really great. You have to kind of wonder every time you do something like a role playing game based on this or that. You know that there's a fandom for the property at large, but is there going to be enough people who want a role playing game? Obviously, the gamer community is big, but is it all going to come together? You know, and it did, far beyond anything I ever imagined.
Apes
That
together
there's
strong.
that many people, and I think a lot of it is this: why the hell has it been this long without an official Planet of the Apes role playing game?
Clearly, the universe was waiting on you.
Yeah, it takes the fans to put something together that we've always wanted, and not the
Right.
corporation who says, oh, you know, I think they want this and I think they want that. But
Yeah,
if you want something the fans want, you ask the fans. Now,
yeah.
what was your role in the creative process?
So Drew Gaska, who headed up the entire project and who is like passionate Planet of the Apes fan number one. It's like Bizarro number one. He actually wears a little thing, you know, a little sign around his neck that says Planet of the Apes, you know, passionate fan number one. He worked with Rich Handley and I on the fiction anthology that we did. So I knew him from that. And at one point, he started talking about this game, and that the company that he was working with got the license, and would I be interested in writing for it? And weirdly enough, it was one of those things that I'd always wanted to do, was to be involved in a role playing game. You know, I'm a D&D guy from the, you know, 80s high school days, and you know, all through the 80s, but I really loved tie-in role playing games, and there's a lot of really fun obscure ones out there. I remember my Larry Niven's Ring World role playing game, right? You know, like, but um, Drew said, "Do you want to be involved?" And I said, "Yes." And that's when it started to take a while, and I think a lot of things behind the scenes had to come together. And I remember that when it finally did, and we started to have the meetings for it, and it was like, okay, this is just going to be so fun, and it was.
Now, did you have to get permission from Disney or Fox to do
Yeah,
this?
so yeah, most definitely. I'm assuming it was Magnetic Press, and then Drew's company is Blam Ventures, so that all has to go through them. That they got the license, and that's a lot of hoops that they all went through. I'm the lucky one. I just had to hear, yes, we're going ahead, and I'm like, but I know from my own experiences dealing directly with companies that have the official license that, A, it's not easy. B, you really have to prove yourself. You have to have a plan, and it has to go through, all the different approvals. If I remember correctly, it they might have gotten the license before Disney actually owned
Oh,
Fox, and maybe that's what kind of delayed things.
oh,
But
sure.
the fact that Disney owned it made for an even extra deeper layer of approvals and scrutiny and all of that. And while I didn't deal directly with those people, from what Drew and Tony Ann, his girl Friday, as I like to think of her, kind of told us, um, again, there were hoops, that they were going to do everything the best that they could do, because they knew that the mouse was really going to look at stuff and really going to want to make sure that it was right and that they could be happy with it.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised then that they didn't say we got a company in our company that can take care of this instead of making everyone jump through these Kickstarter hoops. That
Yeah,
I'll never
I
understand
don't
this.
know. I remember that there was some question about whether they were going to do a Kickstarter, and that gate actually opened, and then it was, you could feel that sort of energy building up to do this, and we, all the writers, were all champing at the bit to get our assignments and just get in there and start, digging into it. But we worked under a pretty heavy cloak of secrecy. I'm not so sure that I'd ever worked under such a dome of silence, to borrow a Get Smart term, uh,
Right.
for a project before.
Yeah, because I'd seen the game come up online, then it disappeared, came up and disappeared, and hoping that Disney is looking at these numbers, $324,000 to back a Planet of the Apes game. I think between that and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes making so much money at the box office, they're
Yeah.
they're thinking, okay, we gotta do more Planet of the Apes. There's
Oh,
just so much that the fans
very
want.
definitely.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
is this game part of the Planet of the Apes main timeline? Is it part of the multiverse? What should fans know about the game going in?
Now that Zira's a Disney princess.
Along with Max Klinger, right?
Oh, nice pull.
Nice.
Oh,
Um,
someone's gonna do a do a rendering of that.
Yes.
so I want Leia and Zira and Klinger all together on that one. It is very definitely rooted in classic Planet of the Apes right now. I haven't really heard about anything, down the line. I know that the team really wants to, expand and keep going with it and add more things in. I don't know if that's possible or not. And not to go into the fiction anthology very much, but it was almost the exact same situation that Rich and I had with the fiction anthology, where the license holder said classic, nothing else. And so I mean, to me, it's the only place to start, right?
Yeah, well, it makes sense that they don't want you treading on the new Planet of the Apes timeline or
Yeah,
storyline that things could
yeah.
just cross over and then contradict.
Well, wouldn't that be kind of cool to have, a source book somewhere down the road? And by me saying that, that doesn't mean I'm hinting at anything, but rather, you can see how these things go, that it could be maybe folded in, but I'm sure that there's so many more different rights involved. I mean, like the Tim Burton one, who knows how that all works and falls into the thing. Here's the good thing, guys, is that classic Planet of the Apes, and I'm talking about the 5 movies, the 2 TV series, the comic books, novels, all that stuff, that has so rich of a stream. It's so wonderful of a universe, and so deep and fruitful, that you could play in it forever. Well, like we always say, it's 3,000 years worth of adventures where you can land anywhere along the. Put it this way: has there ever been a role playing game that offers you that many years and eras and places and characters to go wild with with your imagination?
Oh yeah, and look at all these books. Look at all these books that we're showing right now on screen. There's a lot of information to take in within this game. Now
Yeah.
is and they got these not awesome figures. I love these figures.
Oh, I remember the day that they showed us the those photos, and again we had to sit on all of that secrecy, and we were just like blown away, you know. And then I loved it because they used those to get to different tiers in the Kickstarter. That it was that the Statue of Liberty one. I remember that was like they kept inching closer and closer to that, like, come on, if we get to here, this is going to be part of it, and all of that. I love it. I hope there's so many more miniatures that come out.
Yeah, I just want to play with those figures.
I think even if you, let's just say you didn't play the game, I'm just looking at the film source book alone would
Yeah.
be a gold mine for any fan.
Kevin, you just hit upon it, and no fake. This is a kind of thing that, okay, you're not a gamer. We can still be friends. I get that, but you may want all of this
Yes.
just because you're a Planet of the Apes fan.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you something. I worked on the ANSA source book, and there is so much stuff in there that's new. We were allowed to go out, expand outward, and add detail to things in the Planet of the Apes universe that had never had that amount of detail, and then stop short of the point where you're telling too much because you want your game masters or lawgivers, as they're called
Right.
appropriately enough in the game, to be able to then go that extra distance and add even more of their own imagination into the game. And that's really the wonderful thing about it.
All right, this is directed toward all of the new Planet of the Apes fans out there, the young kids. I looked at the core rule book, and everything is in bite-sized bits of information. That's how the kids today want
Yeah.
their information in little bite-sized paragraphs, and
Yep.
that's what it's in there. And I read the whole book in one night, and I didn't even realize I read the whole book. It was so fascinating. You could just
Good.
read little tiny bits and know at the end you can consider yourself a Planet of the Apes knowledgeable fan, because now
Yep.
you have all this information without having to read long Wikipedia pages to go, okay, this is this year and this is that year, and orangutans are ruling this and gorillas are the soldiers, and this was laid out so organizedly well.
Yeah. And honestly, you might want these books just for the artwork alone.
Oh,
I
definitely,
was
yeah.
thinking that too.
I got to tell you, I was a little bit hesitant to see the art, and the writers got to see it in advance, because sometimes in role playing games they don't necessarily get the very best art. And my apologies to anybody who's worked on art for role playing games, but I've noticed that in the past that it's just not, like, maybe that's almost secondary. That's not the case with these books. This is, and I'm going to challenge all other role playing games, maybe the best art that has come out of a role playing game ever. I mean, this is pieces of art throughout this that should be posters and many other things. Just gorgeous, gorgeous art. The layout, the graphic design work, everything just came together so well. Again, another set of passionate people who were involved with this game.
Yeah, the artwork almost looks like it's watercolors.
Yeah, it doesn't it. Yeah, it's really something. And then when you open it up, art stretches across 2 pages, many times. So there's so many reasons to want to have these as a Planet of the Apes fan, and I hope that there are some out there who maybe thought, yeah, that's cool and all, but I'm not a role playing game person. If you're just a Planet of the Apes fan, you're just gonna love to go through these, like you, Richard, like you said. You're gonna want to almost read it like a novel, or just like and it's like a Planet of the Apes encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't
Yeah.
have a very long attention span myself. So I could say if I can read a whole book in a night, that says something for the book. And I
Yeah.
want the books themselves are just chock full of information. The figures are great. I think the game is almost secondary to the merchandise. And right now we're looking at the core rule book. If you get anything Planet of the Apes merchandise, you've got to get this. It looks like Heath Ledger's on the cover here. That's how you know.
Almost
this
like the
is
game
book.
is a cherry on top. You get this beautiful
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, there's a
creation.
game in here
Oh,
too.
by the way, we'll give you a game just as a bonus.
Yeah.
Well, now I probably it's my duty to say it is a hell of a game too.
Sure.
It is based on the original game system for the Star. I know I'm going to say it, Star Wars.
Oh darn.
You
I'm
remember
sorry, I didn't hear
way
that.
back in the day, West End Games had the official Star Wars role playing game, and they had a system called, I think it was called D6, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So this is, the way I understand it, a version of that. So if anybody out there is familiar with that game system and like that game system, I think you're really gonna, love this. Then you're gonna find many things familiar about that too. So the role playing game aspect of it should be right there. It's not like I was saying, like, oh yeah, you get a great game and then the art is kind of whatever. No, everything is right up here with that, and of course the writing isn't bad.
Yeah, that writer, gosh, he's talented. It's clear.
Yeah, who is this Jim Bard?
Yeah.
Beard. Yeah. This guy's got a future.
Yeah.
I blame Rich Hanley. I think of all the writers on the game, of the of the stuff that we did, he did the most. So I can always blame Rich. I can throw him under the mutants bus.
All right, now say for people who have never played role-playing games before, like myself, and if you were to explain this game to someone such as myself, what would be
Yeah.
the basic concept to sell this game going forward to someone like me who who has no information or knowledge about role-playing games?
If you ever watched a Planet of the Apes movie or a TV series and you wanted to be there as it was happening, then this is the game for you. For the first time, you get to direct the action. If you ever wondered what was right around the corner, sometimes in a scene, or wow, what about that character, that little side character, or that you just wanted to be a character that you came up with and be in those scenes and maybe go up to Zira and Cornelius and have a conversation with him. This is the game for you. If you wondered about eras that we never got to see, if you wondered about something that took place between the Boom comic series and the first movie, then you can do that. They used to say the only limits are your imagination, which was kind of a weird way to put things, but that's really true. Whatever you can think of, and I'll go back to what I was saying. You have 3,000 years to choose from, and then the other really wonderful thing is that you can play. You would say, oh well, I'm going to be playing a human, and I'm going to be fighting apes and things like that. Well, it's not just that. You can actually play an ape. You can be an ape. You can be a human. You can be a mutant. You can be all these different things. You can maybe even be one of the great apes that we never got to see. If you maybe wanted to be a bonobo, or something like that, then you could be a female gorilla, right? We don't get to see female gorillas in
I've already got an idea for a campaign planned out.
Okay,
Don't
good.
worry.
So can you play as the characters like Galen or Cornelius or Urko or Ursus? Can you play as one of the main characters?
Yeah, the focus or the push of the game was to I think first and foremost to create your own characters. But I know very well, and it's funny. I think I actually, if I remember, I had this little conversation with Drew and the team about, because I was going into it thinking that the focus was going to be that you can be Zira and you can be, Urso or whoever, you can be Breck or whatever. And they said, no, we know that people are going to want to create their own personalities and characters. But yeah, I don't see why not. If you feel like you can do a better job at playing Caesar than Roddy McDowell, then knock yourself out. Right?
Yeah,
And
I
you know
can.
what? If you're one of those people who like, no, there's three timelines going on there, right? The end screws up the whole beginning, and it starts a new timeline and everything. Well, this is the game that allows you to do that. You can do alternate versions of things, just like we did a little bit in the fiction anthology.
And you play with other people, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So a role playing game has a referee, somebody who literally sits behind a screen and is directing the whole thing. He's basically God. He or she is God directing everything and is playing everybody else that's not you and your fellow players.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, okay, I
so
get it
so
now.
the generic term is game master, and if you play Dungeons and Dragons, it was the dungeon master. Here in Planet of the Apes, like I said, it's the lawgiver, which is just, I mean, it's genius, but it's also like duh, like of course they have to be called the lawgiver, and then you're literally playing the role of whatever character you came up with, or I guess if you want to be Taylor, or one of those, then sure. And you're going through scenarios that the game master is directing, and the wonderful thing about it is there's a lot of randomness about it. You're rolling dice to determine things. The game master knows everything that you could encounter, but sometimes things go the way they go with the roll of the dice. And that's really, I think, that the real true appeal of role playing.
The game master will also set objectives, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the game master can kind of maybe steer his players in a way. Like I designed this whole room over here. Don't go over the. But that's a whole nother thing right there. But believe me, I mean I've had many hours of role playing game, and I remember the first time that I learned how to play D&D back in high school, and I wondered where role playing had been all my life. I never imagined that I would have that much fun with it. And as a writer or artist or storyteller myself, I very quickly fell into the role of the game master, because I wanted more control and power over
Right.
things. So I mean that everything usually shakes out. The people who really want to be the referee will end up being the referee, and because they do a great job at it. And the people who want to be the people in the adventure and focusing on that one character, that's what they're going to be, and they're going to be great at it. But again, just what you have open and available to you in this game is just amazing. I can't imagine that there would be a wider scope than what you get here of all those years. Think about this: Planet Apes takes place for the most part in North America, right, and either coast. People say this a lot. Well, what the heck was going on in Paris? What was going on in China? What was going on, in Alaska, or in the middle of the United States, or in Central America, and all of those? Well, this is the opportunity to do it. Maybe you're never going to get to do official Planet of the Apes fiction. Well, in a way, you kind of are doing this. You're being given the tools and the equipment to do that with this game, and in a way, to me, it's almost like that step above fan fiction.
Oh, right.
You know,
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I was almost embarrassed to ask that question, but I'm glad I did because now I get a good handle on this game. And for some reason, I just never thought about.
I gotcha.
People take pride in their, well, in this case, law giving. They also take pride in their character designs. So let's say
Yeah,
they didn't pick Taylor, but they picked another astronaut, right?
yeah,
But they had a better idea. Like, I like this from Taylor. I like this, but if it was my character, I would design it this way. And they give them these attributes, and they write this whole page up, and they create the character. They know the character, and then when the lawgiver takes them into the scenario, then they get to act out those special attributes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what's the most, what I see as the most fun.
Yeah. Personally, I'd like to come up with my own character and then interact with those characters that I love so much. I would be the guy that would like go up to Landon and whisper in his ear like, "Don't go over there." Can I be the guy to save Landon in the role-playing game? Quite possibly, or I could make it worse for him. You know.
Yeah, you go first. so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so for someone like me just getting into this, how
Mhm.
long will it take to really grasp onto it?
I think very quickly.
Yeah.
If you can get the very basic timber of what a role playing game is, then that's step one. There was a quick start version of the rules that went out to backers digitally of for this game, and that really got you going. Well, as it said, it was a quick start. It gave you exactly the basics of what you needed to do, and you could actually start playing right there and then. Everything else it's all of the frosting that if you're a sugar addict that you want, and then you kind of go from there. You can go as deep as you want to go. You can just play very simply. I'm going to play. We're going to just be in Ape City, and set during the time of right before the original movie, and and keep it like that. And then you're going to get some really ambitious game master players who want to go farther, and then the tools are there to do that.
So, Jim, I got a quick, based on what we're talking about right here. So, let's say somebody like Richard wanted to play this game, never played it before, and he had a
Yeah.
friend who was an experienced game master in other games.
Uh-huh.
That would speed things up for Richard too, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The best game masters, in my opinion, are the player's friend. That they're not out to get them.
Right.
In some ways, because I mean, honestly, if you're going to be the kind of game master who you're going to put something out there and your character's dead immediately, I
Right.
mean, so what's the fun
Right.
in that at all?
You want it to be a good adventure.
You should want your players
Yeah.
to succeed, oh, and fail sometimes too. Role playing is sort of the game of life too. Yes, it's the same in the video games, the computer games today. There's a chance your character is going to die, and then you kind of start all over again.
Right.
Or if your game master allows, then you come back to life, and
Right.
you keep going. I would never have allowed that
Resurrection.
personally, but
Oh, so there is an
zing.
opportunity for your character to die. You come back as a different character, or how does
I
that
mean,
work?
Possibly.
if you really wanted to, I mean, let's face it, the life expectancy of a human in the Planet of the Apes is not that great. Yeah, there's just something that's really interesting, and that really appeals to me. Is that I said you can be an ape, you can be a human, but when you say you can be a human, we all know we're talking about two different things there. We're talking about Taylor and Landon and Brett and those guys because they're humans from basically our world, the 20th, 21st century and all of that. And then there's those poor unfortunate souls that we know
Right.
as humans. Now, think of the challenge of that. How could you play one of those humans?
I already know.
from the time of the apes.
Imagine, Richard, let's say, okay, so when 1968, they come to, they land back on the planet and they discover all these humans that can't talk. Here's a fun one. What if there was a tribe of humans that were regaining their ability to speak? That would be a fun, right?
Let me just twist it around a little bit. Set it at a time when the humans are just starting to lose.
Oh, see? So it's anything you think of.
You know, is it this or is it this? Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a hell of a challenge to try to play, you know, somebody that Nova knows from her tribe.
There you go.
Because you're always going to have to be thinking about, would this person know how to do this or that? At the very most basic, it would be like playing like a barbarian or whatever. You can be pure brute strength.
Right.
You can be in D&D parlance, you can be a fighter with very low intelligence, but you have you have stamina, you have constitution, you have strength on a very high level. I think it would be really interesting to be that one human who, you know, who really fights back against the apes, and he's not from an astronaut from the past.
Or Richard, you could play as Urko's horse.
That's where I was going, Kevin. That's where I was going.
So this has evolved very quickly.
And Kevin, you could play as Urko's helmet. Had to go over there and try to knock you off.
I was trying to give you an animate object rather than an inanimate object.
Yeah, but I want to be Urko's helmet, okay? I want to know how I stay on his head. That's all I want, okay? All I want in life is know how that helmet stays on his head.
He could be either one of the dogs or cats, you know, that are under fire, you know,
right.
Whenever that was that they died, and whatever the heck it was that they died from. He could be the last dog on Earth.
Yeah, in 1991, just go hide somewhere. Don't let it get to you. Now, for casual fans, how much knowledge do they need to know going into this game? I guess reading the books.
I think literally. I mean, if you know what the premise of Planet of the Apes is, I mean, I think you're good. I'll go back to the Game Master. The Game Master should be helping you along. They shouldn't necessarily be throwing things at you that you don't already know.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, like apes bad, humans good, or the other way around for that matter too. I think you'll be okay. I think you can get swept up in the thing as long as you know the very basics. And if you not watch the movies.
Right, yeah, but you know, some casual fans watch the movies, watch the TV shows, listen to Talking Apes.
But they've never played a role-playing game.
Well, here's what I would recommend. Set a campaign during the time of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. You know? You should know all that. I get it. Maybe you weren't, you know, born in the 70s, you know, I get that, but there should be enough things that you know of, you know, that there are such a thing as phone booths, and people do not carry their phones around, you know, in their pockets. But look at it from that point of view, where they turned everything, you know, on its ear. You could be living in Los Angeles, and suddenly there's news of apes, you know, in astronaut suits landing in a spaceship, and you kind of go from there. You know, what would somebody who brushed up against them, you know, somebody in the crowd, and how could they get involved in what Zir and Cornelius are doing, you know, or maybe they work for, you know, Hassline or something like that. I mean, the possibilities are endless, just endless of what you could be. Maybe you work at the zoo. You know, that they go to.
How many banana daiquiris does it take to get you on a late night talk show? Right, I'm just thinking of our friend Paul.
Just get them on Johnny Carson. Yeah, and once again, if they read this core rule book, they'll have more than enough information.
Yeah, and I don't, and I hate to say it, I'm not really sure how now you'd get a hold of the quick start guide. But if you can,
well, we know this guy Jim.
Yeah, maybe he's got connections.
Hey, I don't even have my own. I didn't get my writer's copy yet of the ANSA source book. So where we're at right now is that the digital copies of things are going out to the
Got it.
backers. So the hard copy things aren't ready yet. So I think that's going to be the next
Awesome.
phase of it. But it's very gratifying because we're starting to hear from people, well, like Richard and others who are reading their digital copies, and I have yet to hear one single bad thing. In fact, we've been hearing, people just kind of gushing about it, which is a testament to Magnetic Press and Blam Ventures and Tony Ann and Drew for putting together just a really amazing set of books and guidance for this game.
Yeah, right now we're looking at the digital rule books and source books, and these are like $25 and $20 and $20.
Now, that's not to say that, I mean, once you started adding everything in,
Right.
but that was the nice thing. You could literally have just gotten maybe the core rule book and the answer source book, and still have had so much stuff to work off of. The other things were really cool, and I know a lot of people really invested in it. Some of those more diehard Apes fans really went all out. I actually know people who got pretty much everything that was offered, uh, and then just salivated at the thought of hitting each tier of that Kickstarter campaign. I'm like, what else can it be? What else?
Yeah, even these physical copies are $49 each, 35.
Yeah.
That's 150 for the whole set, the ultra deluxe slipcase.
Yeah. You didn't have to, to do that. The way I understand it is that the backers will be getting their physical copies, and then it will hit retail. So there'll be shops and other type of retailers that will be
Awesome.
having these if they're buying into it. What I would suggest to people is, and you may be surprised if you don't already know this, there may be gaming shops in your area, and maybe you don't even know
Right.
about it. Google it and see, and you might want to go to them and say, "Will you be getting the Apes RPG,
And
and how can I get that
through your store.
for myself?" Yeah, yeah. I mean, because other than that, you could also try to Google and see if maybe that somebody is setting up a campaign in your area. You don't necessarily have to know the people. I've already seen that in. There's a really great Facebook page called Fans of the Role Playing Game of the Planet of the Apes, that I frequent, and those people are just, I mean, they're just, you know, love personified for Planet Apes. So it's really enjoyable to be around them. And I've seen people saying, "Hey, I'm going to be setting up, a game in the Wichita area. Is there anybody who wants to go in on it, with me? Or better still, see if there's an online group that you can join,
Yeah.
But if you live in anything other than a teeny little town somewhere, there could very well be a shop in your area. I
Oh,
mean,
I know
here
right
where
where I'm
I'm at,
going.
there's at least two
Yeah.
that I know of, and always has been. My city's always been really good about having comic shops. Many times will carry role playing game
Hmm.
stuff. I think the days of like Hobby Center at the mall is
Right.
done.
Right.
That's where like I bought all of my D&D stuff is at hobby centers. But again, you might want to check and see if you have a hobby store in your area. It may actually expand, to say that role playing, games are should be there next to the model kits and the wood burning sets.
Well, I know that our Facebook admin, Patrick Izzo, who lives on the East Coast, he's been chomping at the bit to play with everyone, and he lives on
I
the East
bet.
Coast, so he was like, "Oh, I hope we can play online somehow."
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping there is an option that we can do that.
we're living in the era of watching people play D&D on YouTube videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all possible. It's all possible. I am such a Luddite that I could not do it. Like, I would have to have the physical book in my hands. This digital stuff.
Well, now that I've got a better understanding of how this game works, it's very easy for all of us to put together our own groups and
Yeah,
do our own game.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, might be a little bit of trial and error, but why not? That's what happened to me. A friend of mine on the way home from school on the bus one day when I was a sophomore in high school taught me how to play D&D on the bus ride home, and we didn't have that long of a bus ride home. He started saying like role playing, what's that? And he started to tell me, and I was like, oh, that really sounds cool. He had not game mastered before. He got 3 other people, and we sat in his parents' basement. Yes, that really did happen, folks.
Yep.
And we played. And that first night, we just loved it to death. That we played the next night and the next night until finally my friend said, "Whoa, we are going to burn ourselves out here quickly. Let's go to once a week." And suddenly we had a once a week gaming group, and just kind of went from there. So yeah, if you don't have an experienced game master around, you might just want to kind of ask around and say, hey, who would be willing to be that person? And there's always somebody who, like me, is a control freak and wants to control everything.
When I was watching Freaks and Geeks, I really started to get an understanding of the community that these games can build, because you had the geeks, but then the tough kids were like, wait, what is this game? We want to play. So now you have all the hood kids and the geeky kids all playing together, and they were
Yeah.
all on the same tier. No one was bigger than the other one. They were all playing as friends. And when I saw that, I realized, wow, this is a good opportunity to really build a community, build friends. And when I go
Yeah.
to like Star Wars Celebration, oh, I said Star Wars again. Uh-oh. I have seen these rooms, and there's tons of people in there playing games, and I just get a very warm feeling that these people have made so many friends by playing these games.
Yeah. In my view, gaming or role playing gaming has had a resurgence. A lot of it seems to be because of Stranger Things.
Right.
And
Sure,
whereas
sure.
I didn't enjoy the show. I think I watched 4 episodes and I was done. I mean, I think, one of the good things that I'll admit came out of it was that people just rediscovered Dungeons and Dragons. I kind of hope that spreads. I know that D&D is getting a big shot in the arm from it, but when I was playing back in high school, there were so many other games. Although we played D&D the most, we also uh, played almost as much the Marvel superheroes role playing game because it was super easy to play. There was a lot of comic book role playing games, but they tended to be very kind of complicated with charts and rolling of the dice. Where Marvel was like, this is like felt like a comic book.
Oh.
I mean, it was like the hit charts and things like that were very very easy to use. Not a lot of dice and all of that. But to your point, our first group had some real hardcore geeks in it. I was kind of like in the middle of it. Like I wasn't a total hardcore geek, but I wasn't like our other friend who was a football player.
Hmm.
He was one of the jocks, as we used to call him back then. But he wanted to play, and he was a regular part of our group. So yeah, people can really come together over something like this. And I'm hoping Planet of the Apes is a theme and a property where lots of people can come together. It's one of those things where you can have all kinds of adventures. You can have an action adventure. You could have a mystery. You
Right.
could have, I mean, I don't know, a cataclysm. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Science fiction. You could have a romance story. That's, I think, the beauty of the property. That you can do all those things in
The
just
limit is your imagination. With this source material, if you have a great imagination
yeah,
and you like to game master, This is
Yeah.
just another way to express yourself.
And honestly, that was how I expressed myself was through what I wrote for it. You know, in some ways I was role playing, you know, while we were putting this together.
So what specific thing can we look for when we're playing this game? Can we say, ah, there's Jim's his stamp of approval, his thumbprint, his DNA is in this aspect of the game?
Again, we were under very tight security when that happened. So I worked on the ANSA source book. And what happened was that one of the very first things that all the writers were asked were, tell us like two of the movies or two of the things, parts of it, are you most interested in writing about? And I said Escape from the Planet of the Apes and Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Now, as much as I love the first movie, I also really love those two films. Beneath the Planet of the Apes, there are sequences and parts of it, maybe like the second half of the film, you know, I really like. The first half is kind of too much of a retread, you know, of the
Yeah.
first film. And Battle has its issues. I think we can all admit that. You know, it's not the most sparkling Planet of the Apes movie, but there were so many things that I love about Escape and about Conquest. And those were the assignments. What they basically did is they doled out assignments. They said, here's everything that we want you to write about, and here's a target word count. Now, Richard, this kind of plays into what you were saying, is that, you know, it's not like you're going to have one entire chapter of a book that's just about Taylor. I mean, that would just be like too much stuff to read through. The chore was encapsulate, take what we know and encapsulate it. And I think also then the key to writing for a role playing game is building in springboards for whoever's running the game.
Yep.
You know, you offer kind of in a way, maybe the people reading it maybe not even will realize that what you're doing on a conscious level, but you're building in things that will be a launching pad for something that could be in the game. So we were given characters that we had to write bios for. We got locations to write for, and a lot of I'll say equipment, you know, things, vehicles, weapons, and all sort. Everything had to be described. Now, we didn't do the game mechanics parts of it. We wrote our stuff, and then that went to the people who really knew the ins and outs of the game mechanics, and they had to take what we did and then start to assign statistics and things like that for it, so it worked within the game structure with the mechanics. So we got to do the really really fun part, which was to talk about the things that we really love. And so when you get to the sections of the ANSA source book that are for Escape and for Conquest, chances are you're going to be reading something that I wrote, and I got to write some things that I maybe hoped that I would get to write, and then I got some assignments that I said I would never have imagined that I'd be asked to write about different things. One of the fun little things is that yes, there are things from the TV series here, not as much as the movies, obviously, but there are things in here. And one of the fun things was from the episode called "The Trap."
Oh, fan
So
favorite.
there's a moment where the general is being told about things from a poster or whatever,
Yeah.
different products and stuff like that. So at one point, I was assigned to take basically nothing, just like the title of something, and turn it into something that could be used in the game. And you know, okay, sure, I got to write about Armando, you know, but I also got to write about clothing that once you were done with it, you balled it up and you put it in the sink and it disintegrated in water, and you didn't have to, wash them or hang them up or dry or anything like that at all. So it's like, okay, well, what, how, where, when, and then like what's a little fun thing to stick in there that a game master could use. So and I hope to God this made it to the final. I've seen the digital version of the answer source book, and I'm trying to remember. Not everything that we wrote made it to the very end. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and once they start plugging things in, sometimes there wasn't enough room for things. But I built in a thing that said the company is having a great success with this product, despite the that there have been a few reports of this clothing that has disintegrated in a heavy downpour of rain. Thinking, some game master may see that and go, oh, that's going to be great. I'm going to have my guys try to steal some clothing to disguise himself and run off, but then there's going to be rain, and then I'm going to roll the dice to see if it disintegrates.
Get some of that clothing for Nova.
You know what? I was going to go there, but I didn't.
Yeah. So
That's my
I mean,
job.
I got to write a lot about modern city in Conquest. Characters like McDonald and Armando, as we see Armando in that movie. Somebody else, one of my fellow writers, got to write about Armando as he was in Escape, but I got to, Armando's an incredible character because he changes, he grows and changes over those two movies. He's kind of a different guy in a way, in some ways, in Conquest. He's kind of, beaten down. He's on his last legs as far as his business goes, and he's got one of the most important secrets going on. He's a different kind of guy. So I had to write that second half of Armando's life, you know, and then our taskmasters had to make sure that those two bios, still kind of fit together. You're going to read, Armando as how he was in Escape, and then, how can he be used as a non-player character, I guess, in the next movie.
It'd be fun to have Armando take a little vacation and go to a place called Fantasy Island, where he meets his alter ego, Mr. Rourke.
Yeah.
And also Ricardo Montalban.
I also got to write about some of the like minor ape characters that maybe you don't really, completely think about, like Bobo comes to mind. And there's a guy on that role playing game Facebook page who refers to himself as Bobo. He's a wonderful guy and he's really excited about the game. But I was very excited to tell him that, hey, I got to write your bio. Like, I mean, who would have ever thought about Bobo has a background, he has a history.
Okay,
Where did he come from?
Who now? Who is Bobo?
Bobo's the ape, the gorilla that kills Milo. If I'm not mistaken, Bobo has he goes by another name in there too. Why is he having the problems that he's having? So you set up some things using what you saw in the movie, but you still have, a word count to fill. So that's where you come in and you go, okay, Bobo at a young age started to have these sort of interpersonal relationship problems. He has to be subdued, every once in a while, and things like that. Or this is what sets him off, and that kind of thing. So as a writer, I don't think you could have much more fun than that. I got to write about Heloise is the name of the gorilla mother that her baby dies. So she's given the baby
Yes.
who will grow up to be Caesar.
Yes, Heloise from Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Yes.
Say hello to Heloise.
If I remember correctly, I got to write about Lisa as she's seen in Conquest. And I think somebody else probably then got to write about her as seen in battle.
I don't want to be cliche like we all been saying, but the only limit is your imagination on this because as we're all talking, I'm thinking about the different characters I'd want to
Oh
play,
yeah.
such as Galen from Planet of the Apes, the film, the surgeon assistant that we see for a couple of seconds, who
Hmm.
I believe is, I want to say, a descendant of Galen from the TV series. Just because
Yeah.
of that, they got the same name. I just want to see them connected somehow. They had that
Well,
crossover.
this is your
I
forum for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or better still, the two Zaiuses.
Yeah, oh, did you?
Doctor and
Yes, doctor and counselor. Yeah, we've been reprimanded because we've been calling him Doctor
I know
Zaius.
that for some, that way lies madness. Yeah,
right.
to reconcile. Why are they both called Zaius? A lot of people, I think, went for quite a long time thinking that they're supposed to be the same character, but they're in different time periods.
Right.
For one thing,
It's a
yeah.
popular name.
Okay. Also, as we're talking, I'm thinking about all these characters I want to play, and I want to play the character from the TV series that takes the disc from Alan, because we never see, after the
Yeah.
episode The Legacy, we never see that computer disc again. So
Yeah.
I want to be that character that takes it away. That way, there's a backstory as to why it's never mentioned again.
That's a wonderful springboard. You just did it. You came up
Or
with that.
Lucius becomes a great politician and takes over Ape City.
And also, I want to play the guy that sees Alan and Pete take off from the Planet of the Apes, because all we ever know is from what old Galen tells us in those
Uh-huh.
wraparounds for the telefilms. And I want to be the guy that will tell the story about, yeah, I saw these two guys and they look like Starsky and Hutch. They got on a ship and they blasted off. I saw it myself, and tell that story.
We almost got that story, by the way. If there had been a volume 2 of Tales from the Forbidden Zone,
Huh.
Dayton Ward would have been able to finish the story he began in his story in the first volume, about how they got home.
Okay, I want to play that character, and
Okay, well, there you go.
there we go. All right. Well, you know what? Let's segue into Planet of the Apes: Tales from the Forbidden
Hey,
Zone.
segues are us. See what I do
Yeah.
for you?
And this is, if for to remind anyone, this is the 16 story anthology, and a fan favorite because it crossed over all of the Planet of the Apes multiverses. And first, I love a good crossover, and I just could not get enough of this book. So tell us about the story that you had written. You had written Silenced and A Question of Simian Survival, an Afterword.
That Oh yes, I was going to say that was some. Yeah, no, that is me. I'm sorry when you said stories. Yeah, silence came out of the idea of. I have to be careful because I don't, if anybody has not out there hasn't read the story, it has a little kind of surprise in it of what's going on. There's a character from the classic movies, that I thought has always gotten short shrift, and I wanted to write something involving that character. I also am the kind of guy that loves so many different eras, or what, from all over, that I couldn't pick just one. So my story actually covers, like, it literally jumps through like 3,000 years worth of Planet of the Apes history, with a thread that goes through all these different eras to connect them to when you get to the punchline at the end. I wasn't sure it was going to work, and I remember very well sending it in to my co-editor Rich Hanley, and kind of like, because he's one of those, like, Mr. Planet of the Apes guys, and I was worried what he was going to say, and he came back and said that it was good, and that I did a good job. So I was very gratified for that. And then I also had the task of kind of bringing the book to an end. Rich wrote the introduction, and he had the task of kicking off the volume, and what we wanted to do with it. And then I had to bring it all home at the end with a little essay to wrap it all off. And then I remember that we kind of were like, hey, let's see where we can go from here. And And while Rich and I pushed for it and pitched it, and at one point we're kind of given a green light. The volume 2 never came to be, unfortunately.
Do you know why? I couldn't imagine this book not selling well.
Well, we do and we don't. We were never quite sure, but we surmised that it was that Titan, who was the publisher of the volume 1. I think that they just kind of, I don't know, they drag their heels on it a little bit. If I remember correctly, things were maybe starting to happen at that time. When we were when we were pitching and then starting to prep the first volume, the third new movie had not come out yet, and it's so funny. Rich, when he
You're
pitched,
talking about War for the Planet of the Apes?
I'm sorry.
War for the Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes?
yes, true story. I have never seen those films, so yeah. I'm a classic fan. I it's the same with like Star Trek. I've never seen any of the modern Star Trek stuff. It's just it's not for me, it's for other people. And God love you, if you get into it. I am very, very happy for you. But that's how I feel about Planet of the Apes. It's not my Planet of the Apes, and there's plenty of people who will indulge and have a great time with it. But um Rich put in a pitch for his own story and was told that there was something about it that hit too close to the plot of that third movie, and they didn't want him to do it. And he had to rejigger his whole thing because of that. But as far as the second volume goes, again, I don't know. I think things were just kind of changing. Titan was a hard sell for volume 1 because they said anthologies were a hard sell, and let's kind of face it, tie-ins these days are not what they used to be. God, in the 70s and into the 80s, I mean, you had a novelization of everything. You had maybe, original tie-in novels. You had so much stuff, and it's just not a thing anymore. You don't get a novelization of every single big movie that comes out anymore. And I know I have some friends, some people who actually worked on the role playing game who, that was their bread and butter there for a while. I'm
Wow.
thinking of like Greg Cox for one of them. That he was doing novelizations left and right, and now he's been saying like it's been how many years since he's gotten to write one. But I don't know. I think just maybe like the market changed. The book, as far as I can tell, was a success. It has the most reviews of anything that I've ever done, and my God, our Amazon rating is huge. I think maybe like we have one 3-star review and nothing below that. Everything is 4s and 5s, and we were just over the moon at the reaction to that book. We knew it, and we were again justified because we said to Titan and our editor at Titan, like, we believe in this. We believe that people really want a book like this. The fans really want to have something that has never happened before, which was original short story fiction of Planet of the Apes. And it had never been done before. There were a few original prose short stories that were in British annuals, British comic annuals. And that's about it. There was, nothing here in North America, nothing like that at all. There had never been anything like that book before. And they kind of took a chance on it. But they said, okay, you need to bring in some good big writers for this, some names. And that was a long process, and we feel like we did it. We fulfilled that, the promise of that. And I remember everybody that we invited, and sometimes we were kind of like, do you want to write for Planet of the Apes, thinking they're going to go, no, who'd want to do that? I mean, we had, my most favorite reaction was from, I think it was Jonathan Maybury. I asked him through private message and Messenger on Facebook, hey, would you happen to want to be part of this Planet of the Apes, fiction anthology? And his response was 2 words, and I'll try to be careful about it. It was basically F, yeah, exclamation point. So that's about my most favorite reaction from any writer that I've ever been involved with.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it was, and then as every story came in, it was just like, oh my God, this is better than that last one. Oh my God, this is better still. This is better still. And we said, how the heck are we ever going to assemble like this? Because you want to put all the good ones first, but it was all good.
Yeah.
Wow. Was there one that you really enjoyed other than your own work? Which one really appealed to you?
I have to say Rich's story since he's my co-editor and very well maybe watching this, but I think that he and I can agree that when Dan Abnett's story came in, we separately and then later, discovered together that we both knew that that was going to be the lead story. Once we had all the stories, we said, okay, we're going to go off into our respective corners and try to put together an order, and then we're going to come back together and we're going to see how well like, does your order resemble mine at
Right.
all? and
Right.
and 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 there was no doubt, like, Dan's was that this has to open the book.
Right.
And while I love every story in that book, and very truly so, um, Dan's story was like exactly what we wanted. It worked within what you see in the films, but then yet expanded upon something that we knew fans would love to see expanded upon, and that was the mutant society. But it had humans, it had apes, it had the mutants, and it was the perfect story to kick off that volume, because I think it told readers, here's what you're in for. Here's what you have just walked into, and all bets are off, and we're just going to take you on a ride from here on out. And it worked. We had people almost always citing, if you had a review that actually called out stories that they liked the most, Dan's was always, mentioned.
And Dan's story is titled Unfired.
Unfired, yeah.
So what's coming up then next for you? What are you working on?
I mean, my own stuff, that I do. I'm a small press publisher. I have 2 publishing houses. My one, Flinch Books, is actually celebrating 10 years this year.
Oh,
And me and my publishing partner John Bruning are each coming out with the 4th volume of our signature characters. I have Sergeant Janus, which is my occult detective character, and he has the Midnight Guardian, which is his very pulpy pre-World War II era character. So we're really excited about that. I do, as far as in the licensed world, I do have a new Kolchak the Night Stalker short story that will be
Wow.
coming out. It's going to be in a fiction anthology from Monstrous Press, and from what I understand, they're going to do a Kickstarter for it. But I'm really excited because I had such a joy to work with the character for the novella
That's
that I
awesome.
wrote for Moonstone, and I wanted to kind of get back to the character, and was invited to contribute to that. So I'm really super excited about that. And I'm right now I'm writing an original space opera novel, something I've always wanted to do. Of all the different things that I've written and all the different genres that I've written in, I've never really done, like, oh, here's those words again, Star Wars type space opera. So it's going to touch upon many different things. It's going to be a little bit Star Wars, a little bit Battlestar Galactica, a little bit Captain Planet, Captain Future, and all those really great pulpy space opera type of things. I'd love to write more Planet of the Apes. Again, we go back to that volume 2. Rich and I both knew what our stories were going to be, and we had a full writer lineup. There was going to be some of the writers from volume 1 coming back, and we had newer writers. There's one in particular that to this day I'm crushed that I never got to see her Planet of the Apes. She would be like, if you said, who would you like to write a Planet of the Apes story? She would be one of the most unlikely writers because she had never really written anything like that before, but she was excited about it and she wanted to do it. And we had to tell her that, nope, ain't going to happen. Sorry.
And
Never say never.
Who is this?
You know what? I shouldn't. I better not say. I'm sorry. I should not say. Because for one thing, it'd be teasing people, and I don't really know if she would want to be revealed as one of the people in that. So I should not say. I should err on the side of caution.
It's Stephanie Meyer, isn't it?
No, no, it is
You
not.
want to combine Twilight and Planet of the Apes?
Wouldn't it? Well, you know what? That's what our editor said to us when we were doing volume 1. He said, "Go out and get me some names that people are going to see that name on the cover of the book or in the contents page, and they're going to go, 'Oh my God, you know, Joe Blow writing a Planet of the Apes story. What could that be like?'" And then not be able to do anything but read that story. You know. So and again, we think that we succeeded. Jonathan Mayberry he's the zombie guy. Like I hope that somebody said, "Oh my God, Jonathan Mayberry is writing a Planet of the Apes story." Dan Abnett's writing a Planet of the Apes story. Kevin J. Anderson writing a Planet of the Apes story. That was what it was all about, and that's how we looked at Volume 2 also. But yeah, it would be super fun, and I still have that idea for that story that I was going to write for Volume 2. And I mean, who knows? Look, Kevin, you said it. Never say never.
Right.
I don't foresee it happening. But I'm not so sure who has the prose license anymore. All those licenses. There's not just like one Planet of the Apes license. There's a license for
Right.
prose. There's the license for comic books.
Makes
There's
sense.
the license for action figures. And the way I understand it, even that's broken down. Like if you have the license to make 6-inch action figures, you do not have the license to make 12-inch action figures, nor 3 3/4-inch action figures. You're making 6-inch, and that's it.
Yeah, you got your niche. Playsets are over here.
Yeah.
Hallmark figures are over there.
Yeah, yeah. I want to be the guy that writes the next Planet of the Apes coloring book.
There you go.
I mean, that's my dream job. So I'm throwing that out there. If any publisher out there has the Planet of the Apes coloring book license, I'm your guy.
Or the Mego license. Maybe there was a little boy who never got the Planet of the Apes Mego figures, and how does his life turn out? All right, so Jim, if anyone wants to look more into the role-playing game, where do they go? How can they still contribute?
That's a good question because again, I think that they absolutely want to keep going and make more things for it. As far as I'm concerned, they can do how many more source books, and they could do, what we used to call modules, although I'm not sure what they're called anymore these days. I myself have told them, if you get to that point where you can do way more, I want to be involved. I've got some ideas for, a module or something else like that. So I hope we can go back to that. Drew Gaska is the lead guy there, and again, you can, probably contact him through Blam Ventures or contact Magnetic Press. Definitely go to Magnetic Press's website and go to the Planet of the Apes section of it. At the very least, you're going to get that beautiful artwork that, you're going to be able to look through all of that stuff. And then, like I said, try to, find a gaming shop in your area and talk to them. Hey, are you going to be getting the game once it's in the physical version of it? And if not, then just kind of haunt the internet. I mean, that stuff will is going to show up. And like we were all saying, I'm sure you can find a group somewhere, either in person or online, to get going that way. And if you like Planet of the Apes and whatever your level of liking Planet of the Apes, I think you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, the main site is Magnetic Press. That's magnetic-press.com. And just type in Planet of the Apes and it'll bring you right there.
Yeah.
So now the big question is when? When will this finally be completed where it's going to be released and out there to the public? That's the big question.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer. I wish I had a big answer. I wish I had a small answer. I wish I had any kind of answer. So that's not me. And
And
I'm sorry to hear that. You know, I know a lot goes into that because there's a lot of all the printing that has to be done. Many times those type of books are printed overseas, you know, and we're in a strange world at the moment about things coming in. So I'm not really sure where that's at, but I'll tell you something. The people in charge are on that Facebook, in that Facebook group all the time. Tony Ann in particular, she's amazing. Somebody asks a question and she's almost always like right there, and she says, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to ask Drew and I'm going to get an answer from him. Drew's on there also. I'm on there. I can't answer those questions about the bigger things, the actual publishing thing, but those people are out there, and I know you can, find them and hopefully get an answer from them. They did a really great job of answering questions on the Kickstarter, sort of message boards that are connected with the campaigns there.
You have
They
to.
were there,
You really
when
have
people
to.
said like, will this just be digital, or will there be a physical thing of this, and what about this and that? And they were right there answering everything. They're the
Yeah.
kind of people that really do want to talk with the fans, talk with the consumers, and get them, answers. Not everything can be answered. I'll warn people, because there's a lot of like confidentiality things about the license and stuff like that. That's just, that they're kind of, handcuffed by things that they can't reveal. So kind of expect that, and go easy on them for that. If people want more product for this game, that's just one of those kind of evils that they'll have to put up with, that they may not be able to get an answer to everything.
And once again, that is fans of the role-playing game of the Planet of the Apes, and I just requested to become a member. And
Oh
uh,
well,
I said my name is Jim Beard.
maybe I can pull some strings.
There he has
Yeah.
some power. Good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, the review process is.
Kevin's golden.
Yeah.
We don't always let Star Wars fans in.
Have you ever played an RPG game before? I said no, but my name is still Rich Handley and Jim
Oh,
Beard. Whatever gets me through there. I'm Drew Gaska. Let me in. Let me in there, please,
just
please.
tell him you're Richard and you have appeal.
Oh, there you go. How do you top that? Thank you so very, very much, Jim. This has been a pleasure, and I've learned
Thank
so much
you.
about this game, and now I'm even more excited than I was before.
Oh, good. Well, as they say, my job here is done. Mic drop.
Yeah, Jim's
That's
fantastic
great.
meeting you, man. I'm really excited.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. This was really wonderful. You got a great thing going here, and you're doing yeoman's service for the fan community, for this incredible property, and keep it going. Go ape.
Yes.
Apes together strong. Go ape. Kevin, so now how excited are you for this role-playing game?
Very excited. I've got several scenarios I want to try out.
Yeah, I really want to play as this one human that interrupts everything about Pete and Alan, like taking that computer disk. Maybe he's the one that kept them from blasting off while they've been there. Maybe he knows where the spaceship was. He's been hiding it. Maybe he wants friends, so he's not going to let them leave. And they finally find it. There's endless possibilities.
I want to do that when I was telling you the pre-ape thing where you're at ANSA and you take the shortcut and you send them up in a faulty sleep chamber And now we know why that one broke, and then why the ship can't do a water landing, and then all the malfeasance at ANSA, and explains everything we see in the opening of the original movie. That I want to play through all of that.
Yeah, I can't wait to play this, and we'll get Patrick Izzo and David Braun if he wants to join in. Max, the possibilities are endless.
I love it.
I'm sure Anthony Mark will want to join in. Anthony Pomus, getting too excited. But you know what? That's upcoming. We gotta wait. We have to wait. But now, Kevin, let's read some more of this feedback that we had been getting regarding the 50th anniversary of the Planet of the Apes TV show. We have a lot of feedback, so with every episode, we'll read some more. This first one comes from Max Cervantes. Now, do you know who this is?
That sounds familiar. Max Cervantes. Let me see.
Oh, is this the guy from that?
Wasn't he one of the original? What?
Is this the guy from that Max Effects podcast show?
Max something. I've heard of him. I'm almost positive. I can imagine what. Yes.
Okay.
No, come on.
Well, maybe it's a different Max. I don't know. All right. Max writes.
It's the Max.
The Max. Max says, I have a tie for my favorite episode. The first episode where the ship first crashes and we meet the characters. Then, my second favorite episode is The Good Seeds because I love seeing a chimp family unit. It's something we never get to see during the whole rest of the series. You know what? He's right. We never do get a chance to see an ape family.
Made a good point, for sure.
Yeah. RPG characters coming your way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tom Dabb says, this was the first pop cultural phenomenon I was old enough to experience firsthand. From that night of September 14th, 1973, when CBS aired the first movie to the premiere of the series almost exactly a year later, 1974. Oh, so good on CBS. They did the movie, and then a year later, they followed up with the TV series. I lived and breathed all things Planet of the Apes. I would definitely say the franchise's success on television was a completely new phenomenon from the franchise's incredible success theatrically. All the merchandise definitely came from the television success and its appeal to children through that medium. Here. That's why I bought all the toys, because the TV show. All right, Tom goes on. I had virtually every piece of merchandise, and the show was always the number one subject in elementary school that fall.
Awesome.
I blame its failure on CBS and their lack of foresight to see that counter-programming could have given them an edge with advertisers than just looking at the ratings, where nothing could have competed with NBC's successful Friday lineup.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite episode is The Legacy, and definitely Galen stole the show. Yeah, it's hard to say I don't necessarily blame CBS, just because how would they know that Chico and the Man is going to overtake a popular franchise like Planet of the Apes? If they knew, they probably would have changed it right back then.
Yeah, I'm guilty of watching Chico and the Man too.
You're to blame, Kevin. You're to blame.
We had one TV, man, and it's the show my dad would watch. I used to have to try to watch reruns of. Never mind.
All right, so The Legacy, another great episode, one that springboards into the character I want to create for the RPG, the one that takes that disc from Alan. That's the reason why we never see that disc again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now Andrew Arnell writes, hated that it was an illness and an injury of the week nearly every episode. Wanted more Forbidden Zone, tapes of what happened, etc. Yeah, I guess he's right. It was kind of an injury or an illness every single week.
Well, you got to have drama in your drama.
Either that, or let's have Urko get trapped in another well with Pete. He already did the subway thing.
Oh well,
get him, throw him and Alan in a well this time.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah, well, maybe if they had rolled in Chico and the Man into Planet of the Apes, then we could have seen something.
Hey, we'll do that in the RPG.
That's gonna be our answer for everything. It used to be, it's the multiverse. Now it's
if you have an idea, RPG it. That's it.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, that does it for this episode of Talking Apes, and our first episode in, Kevin, say it,
April.
Thank you to everyone for hanging in with us and for watching and commenting and sending us feedback. We really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank everyone for subscribing to our YouTube channel over there at the Skywalking Through Neverland Network. And once again, when we start doing the comics, you'll want to see all of the pages and all the panels in their full glory. Now, we also want to thank Patrick Izzo. Let's hear it for Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
For being our Talking Apes Facebook admin. And thank you, Patrick, for helping us with some of these RPG questions. Now, we also want to thank Rob Dellinger, who composed the theme to Talking Apes. Please check out Rob's band at alpharhythmkings.com. He is now touring, so go and see him on tour and yell Talking Apes.
By the way, he's very active on TikTok these days. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, Rob is everywhere.
Yeah,
Rob
he's everywhere,
has
man.
blown up. Now, Kevin, we are part of the Skywalking Network, where you can find other great shows like the Max Effects Podcast, the Neverland Clubhouse, Totally Tell Me Everything, Star Warsologies, and the flagship show, Skywalking Through Neverland. You can catch our YouTube shows, Today in Star Wars History, and Collectopolis. So, Kevin, any Collectopolis news?
We're so close. It's taken us forever to edit this, but it's the extravaganza from Frank and Sons, and it's worth the wait. We had a little trouble with some of the media, getting it all put together. It was very high-res 4K files, and we're so close now. Ernie might have it wrapped up this weekend.
Oh, nice. And until next time, this is Richard.
And this is Kevin.
Now
go
Ape.
Ape. Roll.
And here we go. Hey, Ape fans, and happy April. April. Did I say April? I'm going to start that again.